Kleśa karma vipaka shayair paramrushta Purusa vishesha Īśvara. Kleśa karma vipaka ashayaihi aparamrushtaha Purusa vishesha Īśvara. Ishvara is a special Purusha, untouched by the vehicles of Kleśa, karma, and vipaka.
Okay. So in this video, we are going to discuss Sutra 1.24. In the last video, we discussed Sutra 1.23, Ishvara pranidhanadva. We asked the question, is there another way to still the mind? Is there another way to attain samadhi? Is there another way to suppress the fluctuations of the mind, or rather, the source from which they emerge? And the answer is yes. Sutra 1.23 states, Ishvara pranidhanadva, or one can attain samadhi through complete self-surrender and devotion to Ishvara. Okay? Now, the following sutras are going to go deeper into who Ishvara is. Who can Ishvara be, right? So, can it be Krishna, Shiva, Brahma, Agni, Varuna, Vayu? Who can Ishvara be, right? Who can one use as their alambana or support in meditation to take the role of Ishvara? Okay, and we are going to discuss the characteristics of Ishvara in this case. So we are going to dive into three main concepts in this sutra, Kleśa, Karma, and Vipāka. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so by hitting the lotus icon on the bottom right of the screen. There are going to be a lot more videos on Indian philosophy, Yoga Sutra, Sankhya Karika, Bhagavad Gita, Sanskrit videos, and many other, especially also psychology videos, So please do subscribe if you haven't already done so, like, share, etc. Also, if you go to my website, academyofIndianPhilosophy.com, you will see that in the tutoring section, I have set up private one-on-one tutoring opportunities, right? So you could study with me verse by verse, step by step, going into the literature and the commentarial literature as well. In addition, I have created classes in the study of Sanskrit and yoga philosophy. One can take short-term classes, short 90-minute classes, 2-week classes, or one can take up to 5-week classes in the Yoga Sutra and these topics that I've mentioned. So let's begin. Sutra 1.24 states, Kleśa karma vipaka ashayaihi aparamrushtaha Purusa visheshaha Īśvara. So again, Kleśa karma vipaka ashayaihi aparamrushtaha Purusa visheshaha Īśvara. Okay, so I'm breaking the sandhi here, right? I'm not keeping it combined in this particular case. Now, we will see in Sanskrit literature, oftentimes the subject or who we're talking about is towards the end of the sutra or the shloka. In this case, Īśvara, the topic is here, okay? So, Īśvara is Purusa visheshaha. Īśvara Purusa visheshaha. So, Purusa we already know. Purusa is pure consciousness, infinite, changeless consciousness, the observer, right? Eternal. Okay, this is the true nature, the essence of the being. Whether you're an animal or an insect or a human or whatever the case is, Purusa is the soul in this case, okay? So, Purusa visheshaha. Visheshaha, again, means distinct or particular. And we're going to use visheshaha to mean special in this case. So, Ishvara is a special Purusha. Ishvara is a particular or a distinct Purusha, okay? Now this is important because here we are going to see the demarcation or the separation of how Ishvara is different from the human being, okay? All human beings have a certain Purusha, right? Which are pretty much the same. Ishvara, however, is a special Purusha, a Purusa visheshaha, right? So it's not going to be the same type of Purusha. He or she is going to be different from the human being. And we're going to learn how is Ishvara different from the human being according to Patanjali and Vyasa in this video. So the next word, aparamrushtaha. So mrushtaha means touched or affected or influenced. Amrushtaha, the negation of that means untouched, uninfluenced, unaffected, right? So apara amrishtaha, apara amrishtaha. Apara means unequaled, not surpassed. So Ishvara is a special Purusha who is untouched in no other way, unaffected in no other way, in the highest way. Okay? So Ishvara is untouched by something. So far we have that Ishvara is special and distinct from human Purushas. But how? Well, the next piece of information is that Ishvara is untouched, unaffected in some way. Okay? So by what is Ishvara untouched? Right? By what is Ishvara uninfluenced? These three are going to be the most important concepts in this sutra and definitely throughout the Yoga Sutra. Okay? So Ishvara is aparamrushtaha by the ashayaihi, ashaya. So ashayaihi in this case we're going to say is by the vehicles for now. By the vehicles or by the method or the means in some way. So Ishvara is untouched by the vehicles of Kleśa, karma and vipaka. Okay? Ishvara is untouched by Kleśa, karma and vipaka. Please remember these three concepts if you want to understand the difference between Purusha and the human being. Okay? So I have not listed the 5 Kleshas. Kleshas are very important in the Yoga Sutra for the yogi or yogini trying to practice this. Okay? So Kleśa, karma and vipaka. Human beings are touched by these, are affected, are limited by these. Ishvara is not. Okay? So Kleśa, from the root klish, right? To afflict, to inflict, to cause pain, right? Kleśa is an obstacle in yoga. Kleśa is a psychological distortion. It's a psychological hindrance, an obstacle in the chitta, in the mind of the yogi or yogini. And this distortion or this affliction or this obstacle doesn't allow the yogin to achieve samadhi. It blocks the yogin from achieving samadhi. And so in chapter 2 we will see Kriya Yoga, a path which diminishes the Kleshas. In order to achieve samadhi or the goal of yoga, the practitioner has to diminish the Kleshas. So the 5 Kleshas are avidya, ignorance or not knowledge, asmita, ego, raga, desire, dvesha, aversion, or abhinivesha, self-preservation, clinging to life or fear of death. These 5 Kleshas are so important and play such a crucial role in yoga philosophy that they hinder the practitioner from achieving samadhi. Especially, this is delineated in chapter 2. But for now, avidya is false identification with the body and the mind. When the yogin falsely believes he or she is the body and the mind rather than the Purusha, the true nature. Okay? This is the main Klesha. Asmita or ego is the false identification between the Purusha and specifically the buddhi, the intellect. Okay? So it's more of a specific identity. So if I am under avidya, I will think that I am my body and my mind. And furthermore, I will think that I'm Himal, or I'm Indian, or I'm a student, etc., whatever the case is. Right? So they call it false identity because your true nature is Purusha. So whatever your nationality is, your gender, your belief system, your ego, etc., this is all avidya and asmita. Raga is desire, dvesha is aversion, and abhinivesha, again, self-preservation or clinging to life. So we'll go more into these in chapter 2. Now, Kleśa creates karma. This is very important. Kleśa creates karma. I'm going to make a separate video about karma because there are a lot of misconceptions about this word. From the root kri or kru, to do or to make. Karma means action here. So as long as there is Kleśa that exists in the mind of the yogin, right? As long as there's Kleśa that exists in the mind of the yogin, any action that you do, whether you sleep, eat, walk, do nothing at all, whether you go and pursue a particular career, whether you move your hand or listen to somebody or talk, whatever it is that you're doing, you're always creating karma. When you're creating karma, you're planting a seed, right? Action, reaction, action, reaction. So I'm making a video, I'm creating karma. I'm going to listen to it later, I'm creating karma. I'm going to have feedback is creating karma. I'm moving my hands is creating karma. I'm looking at the camera is creating karma. Why? Why am I constantly creating karma no matter what I do and even if I don't do anything? It's because of Kleśa. As long as Kleśa Mula, as long as Kleśa is at the root in the yogin's mind, karma is always going to be created. It doesn't matter if you do good karma or bad karma. Good karma only entitles you a better life in the next life or what is going to come in this life or in other lifetimes. But it will not free you from the cycle of birth and death. So in yoga philosophy, and particularly Hindu Vedic theology, it's going to be Kleśa is the root here. In yoga philosophy, Kleśa is going to be the root. And Kleśa causes karma. As long as you have it, you're always going to create karma. And as long as you plant a seed, the seed will always fructify. There will always be a result. Whenever there's a seed, there's a result. So whenever there's karma, there's vipaka. You're always going to get the consequences of the seeds you have planted. You're always going to get the consequences of all of your actions, your infinite actions, your variety of actions. Okay? So, Kleśa, karma, vipaka. This three-pronged, psychological creation of karma and consequences, etc., is very important. It's significant in understanding yoga philosophy. So, what this sutra is saying is Īśvara Purusa Visheshaha. Ishvara is a special Purusha, is a distinct Purusha that is aparamrushtaha, untouched by the ashayaihi, by the vehicles of Kleśa, karma and vipaka. So, why is Ishvara a special Purusha? Because he or she is untouched by this. So human beings and other creatures are touched by this. Human beings at the root of their mind have Kleśa. Human beings at the root of their mind have Kleśa, which then lead to karma, which then lead to the consequences, which are vipaka. This process binds a human being to rebirth, samsara, right? Constant pain, constant suffering, over and over and over again. To get out of this cycle, the human being has to weaken the Kleshas, specifically weaken the Kleśa of avidya, okay? And this process will be explained more in chapter 2. So the commentary starts out by asking this question. Who is this Ishvara that is above Purusa and Prakriti, right? If you remember in Sankhya metaphysics, and we'll go more deeply into this, there's only two fundamental metaphysical realities, okay? We have Purusa and Prakriti, infinite, changeless soul and constantly changing material nature, okay? Ishvara is above this. Who is this Ishvara that is neither this or this? It's very important to remember that in chapter 1 of the Yoga Sutra, Ishvara is particularly used or utilized as an alambana. Ishvara is used as an alambana. Again, an alambana is a support or base on which the mind rests. When you're meditating and you're trying to go into a one-pointed state of mind, like 900 million thoughts, right? You want to focus on one thing, the alambana, the support or base that you use to meditate, right? The Yoga Sutra states that you can utilize Ishvara as a sort of alambana. So you can meditate on Shiva, Krishna, etc. So Ishvara as an alambana can be used in chapter 1. But in chapter 1, Ishvara is optional. You as the yogin do not have to rely on Ishvara or use Ishvara as an alambana. It's your choice. If you want samadhi to be faster, if you want the effects of samadhi to come faster, then you can rely on Ishvara. But if you want to do it on your own, you can do it on your own. This is because chapter 1 is particularly for the sattvika natured people. Chapter 1 is for the practitioners who are very close to the goal. Their minds are not vikshepa, they're not distracted. They don't have chitta vikshepa. Their minds are not in all different directions. So chapter 1 practitioners are very close to the goal. Chapter 2 is more for practitioners who are really distracted, and people like us, right, who are distracted and need to get closer to chapter 1. So Ishvara in chapter 1 is optional. In chapter 2, you'll see that Ishvara is required for the individuals who don't have control over their mind. But Ishvara is not used as an alambana in chapter 2. Ishvara is used to move away from self-centered activity, like karma yoga in the Bhagavad Gita, which we will discuss. So in the commentary, it states that the Purusha is untouched also, right? The normal Purusha is untouched. How can you say that there's karma, Kleśa, vipaka, and experiences involved in the Purusha? Purusha is pure, it cannot have anything in it, right? So in the commentary, it states that like the commander and the army in a war or in a battle, when the war or battle is won, the army does it. The army wins the war or battle, but the credit is given to the commander, right? In the same way, Prakriti or the Buddhi, the Ahankara, the Manas or the Chitta or the mind complex is doing everything, is experiencing everything. But because it's so close to the Purusha seems to get all the credit. So it feels like everything is happening in the soul. It feels like everything is happening in consciousness or in Purusha, but it's not. Everything is happening in Prakriti. Everything is happening in Buddhi, your emotions, your feelings, right? Your sensations, etc. It's happening in material nature. The Purusha is just observing it. Okay? So like the commander is given credit for the victory that was actually done by the army, in the same way the Purusha is given credit for these sensations and feelings and emotions, but in reality it's happening in Prakriti or Buddhi. So there's one more concept to understand in this sutra, and this should give us a general idea of who Ishvara is based on this sutra. There's more qualities to be explained. So Ishvara is free from excess or equality. When I say excess, I mean that no one can surpass Ishvara. No being, right, human, deva, God, etc. No being can surpass Ishvara. Ishvara is the highest, okay? And equality. No being could be equal to Ishvara. Ishvara cannot be surpassed, and Ishvara cannot have an equal. That's what this commentary is particularly saying, and they give many reasons. You know, if there's equals, right, two supreme beings, and one says do this and the other one says do the opposite, there's going to be a clash. So there's many reasons as to say why that's the case. And finally, here they're saying that Ishvara and Shastra, these are the highest forms of knowledge, the highest form of knowing each other. You know Ishvara is the highest because Shastra, scriptures say it, and you know that scriptures are the highest because Ishvara has produced the scriptures. So it's a sort of back and forth relationship here. Ishvara and the scriptures are the highest authorities, explained in this particular commentary. So in this video, we learn more information about this character or concept called Īśvara. We learn that Īśvara is untouched by Kleśa, karma and vipaka. And this makes Īśvara a special Purusha, Purusha visheshaha. Right? Ishvara is distinct from other human beings because he or she is not affected by these three concepts right here. Right? We also learn that Ishvara is above a normal Purusha and Prakriti, material nature. Ishvara is none of these here. Ishvara in chapter 1 is optional and is used or utilized as an alambana to meditate upon. Okay? So if the yogin wants to attain samadhi, the yogin has the option, okay, to meditate on Ishvara, Shiva, Krishna, Durga, etc. Okay, chapter 2, it's more required because of Kriya Yoga. And finally, we learn the answer to the question, why do people ascribe moods, emotions, activities, sensations to Purusha when Purusha is pure and unchanging? And this is because the proximity with Purusha and Prakriti, right? The Buddhi, the intellect, is right next to Purusha. And in the proximity, like the commander in the army in a war, the army does all the work, but the credit is given to the commander. In the same way, Prakriti has encases, right, and keeps all the emotions and moods and sensations, right? They happen in your mind, right? But it feels as if the Purusha, pure consciousness, it feels like it's happening in that, but it's not. And that's very important to remember. So in this video, we discussed Sutra 1.24. In the next video, we're going to discuss Sutra 1.25 and learn more about this figure called Īśvara. Once again, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so by hitting the lotus icon. I'm going to make a lot more videos on yoga, philosophy, Sanskrit, Indian philosophy, and psychology, etc. Also, feel free to visit my website, academyofindianphilosophy.com, to sign up for tutoring, classes, and whatever really interests you about these Indian philosophical topics. Thank you.